Hi, this is PPTA Physical Therapy Podcast, a potluck of information and insights about the physical therapy profession and practice from the experiences of Filipino physical therapists around the world. So again, I'm Johan de la Paz, and welcome to the show. Joining us today to help us understand our professional organization in the Philippines is the president of the Philippine Physical Therapy Association, Mr. Michael Gabilo. Sir Mike, welcome to the show.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all to the listeners and watchers of your show.
Mhm.
And thank you, Sir Johan, for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, sir. It's my pleasure to have you here. I know you're very busy, so thank you for taking the time to talk with us. So before we dive into our topic, which is PPTA, I usually ask my guests how they started in physical therapy. So we know a little bit about you. So how did you start your journey as a physical therapist to where your current role now is?
I finished my bachelor's degree, BS Physical Therapy, in, uh, in PLM, Pamantasan Lungsod ng Maynila, and batch 202. So I just leave you the mathematics and just compute for my age now. So after graduating, I immediately took the licensure examination and luckily was able to hurdle that examination for just one take. And I immediately, well, of course, after graduating, you're kind of idealistic at the time that you want to be seen in the clinics, you want to work and, of course, see patients. So the first thing that I do is to really apply for hospitals, but what happened is I was absorbed, or I applied for that job also, but I was able. That was the first, no, the first employer who accepted my application and then eventually hired me as a review lecturer.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I do part-time home health care as a clinician so that ma-practice ko syempre yung profession as a physical therapy clinician. And then, ang nangyari kasi nag-open na doors are basically in the field of education.
Oh, okay.
So, from there, sabi ko, sige na nga, I'll go to this path and then just pursue graduate courses related to education so that I'll be more equipped and more prepared in handling classes, because in BS Physical Therapy, in our previous curriculum, education or PT education is not really part of the courses being offered as part of the BSPT curriculum. So what I did is to pursue postgrad or graduate programs related to, or post-baccalaureate programs related to education, so that I'll be more knowledgeable with the psychophilosophical foundations of teaching and learning.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, in an institution, Emilio Aguinaldo College, that's where I became more active in PPTA. Actually, that's
Mm-hmm.
the first time that I've heard of PPTA, of course, as a student. That's part
Mm-hmm.
of the topics being discussed. But kasi dun sa paaralan ng pinanggalingan ko, no, we were not really that active, or we were not exposed to activities of PPTA. Unlike now, no, our students are more exposed to Philippine Physical Therapy Association activities. Noon wala talaga. So I don't know about that or what is really that organization until 2007, when I volunteered for a PPTA convention, uh, and I was part of the registration team.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, no, I became parang visible now with PPTA activities.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine 2002 graduate ako, and then until 2007, that's the year that I applied for membership. So it took that the period of time before I actually immersed with the professional association or our society. Kasi nga hindi kami ganun ka oriented about the
Mm-hmm.
association.
Mm-hmm.
Very siguro yung alam namin very superficial lang. You know that there is a Philippine Physical Therapy and then Association. And then after that, yung PPTA, medyo naging active ka ng konti and then more meetings. Tapos nakita ka nila, siguro they saw this parang potential in me that I can be, I can be given more assignments aside from being a person in the registration committee. So, ayun. And then I joined a special interest group, the PPTA Educators SIG. Again, I chose that SIG so that it will help me. Parang you have a group of educators sharing the same interest, sharing the same passion. So gusto mong makarinig ng mga updates. So I joined that group, and up to now I'm still a member of that special interest group. And then the first time I ran for office sa PPTA, I was not eligible. I was lack of presidency.
Oh, okay.
Why I was not able to. They did not allow me to run for that year because kulang pa ako ng residency sa PPTA.
Okay.
After a year, so meron akong residency sa PPTA, but yung previous term hindi pa tapos. So it so happened that the secretary at that time, she has to leave the Philippines and migrate to the US. So that position na vacant yon. So what they did is they made an appointment, and since I'm already qualified to be a member of the board of officers at the time, so that's the time that I actually parang nagkaroon talaga ng formal task to be a BOO or board of officer in PPTA. And then after secretary for like how many terms, I was nominated and then luckily elected as the vice president for internal affairs. And after 2 terms, I am now assuming the position of the president. I'm assuming the presidency of PPTA.
Nice. So it started from totally not being immersed or participating actively in the organization to becoming the president just by starting being involved.
Yeah, in a registration committee of a national convention.
Right. Was it something that you have seen before when you were starting that you'd soon become the
No,
president? No.
not at all.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I was just doing volunteer works with
Mm-hmm.
PPTA because eventually, after being a member, I felt the need for me to contribute something for the association, for the society, because I always remember comparing PPTA to my high school clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Na you need to do something, you need to contribute something so that that club or that association will be eventually successful and then create more projects wherein a bigger crowd will benefit from it. Diba? Parang gano'n. So, hindi ko talaga siya inisip because I just enjoy my stay in PPTA as a volunteer, attending meetings, as a member of the SIG, something like that. Pero never ko naman siyang, it was that opportunity talaga when the secretary of the PPTA then needs to go abroad.
Right. So we're already at how you became a PPTA officer and soon president. Now president. Let's now discuss what PPTA is, because as you've mentioned, and also with me, when we were students, we weren't really exposed much on what PPTA is, because we thought that it's the professional organization of physical therapists and not physical therapy students. So unlike here in the US, they are encouraging student physical therapists to join at least one national convention so that they get the feel of what physical therapists do eventually when they graduate. So they really encourage in their school. They really encourage their students to join at least one of the national conventions. Though they have like state conventions, but at least one national convention, because that's where you would really feel that you're part of something big. So For those who are not familiar or don't know what PPTA is, how would you describe what PPTA is?
Yeah. Before I go and answer the question,
Mm-hmm.
I'd just like to say and share to our listeners and those who are watching us right now that PPTA now has a student group or student arm.
Mm-hmm.
That is the Association of Philippine Physical Therapy Students,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they're on their 11th year already
Mm-hmm.
of existence. We have that formal group of students now so that they'll be more active in advocating for the profession,
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time they get to see what happens after or in the future once they become professionals.
That's
So
good.
and even now, PPTA is very much welcoming in
Mm-hmm.
the students' participation in the convention, that we have a specific student cluster for research presentations.
Mm-hmm.
We have special rates for students who are planning to participate in the different fora and conferences. So, ngayon meron na rin tayo niyang ganyan dito sa Philippines. Now, to
Mm-hmm. Good.
answer the question on what Philippine Physical Therapy Association is all about.
Mm-hmm.
So, number one, PPTA is a non-stock, non-profit professional organization. So, we are also a non-governmental organization, contrary to what other people or what other colleagues of ours are thinking, that we are receiving some subsidies from the government. Because I heard, and may nabasa rin ako about it, that PPTA is receiving subsidies from the government, but in actuality we are not receiving at all, not a single centavo from the government. So it's an organization recognized by the World Confederation for Physical Therapy, and we are a member of the Asian Confederation for Physical Therapy. And locally, we are recognized by the Professional Regulation Commission. So we are an organization of physical therapists, and the PPTA is being true to our vision, or rather to our mission, which is to become the impetus, the driving force of the physical therapy profession in the country, for it to be more robust, no, more a stronger practice of physical therapy in the country. So that's basically the mission of PPTA. From this mission, all our strategies, all our plans are anchored to this. And also, PPTA, we believe in our core values. No, we have set our core values, which includes nationalism, integrity, excellence, accountability, altruism, and social responsibility. Kasi from the vision, the mission, and the core values of PPTA, this will set the mood. No? Um, this will compass what will be the direction of PPTA towards, again, escalating or improving the practice of physical therapy in the country. Yan yung pinaka-basic essence ng PPTA, no? Pinaka-description niya. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, if you're going to ask me kung ano yung mga trabaho, ayun, marami na yon. Lahat na yun, naka-anchor na yun doon sa mga vision, mission, core values of PPT.
So because that's we talked about yung core values and the mission and vision. So people would still probably ask, ano ba talaga ang ginagawa ng PPTA for the profession and for us physical therapists? So kasi ang nakikita ko rin sa comments, like ano ba yung concrete na ginagawa ng PPTA? So for that, ano yung how would you translate the mission and vision, and the core values to projects? Ano na yung mga projects ng PPTA?
Yeah. Thank you again, Sir Johan, for
Mm-hmm.
having this, for giving me the opportunity to talk about the Philippine Physical Therapy Association.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen and I've heard about the previous episodes. this episode is kind of well unique because most of your topics are really clinical ang nature. So I'm really happy and glad that you were able to think of this topic as part of the roster of your topics to be discussed here. And good thing that we have this platform. Kasi before, when I talk about the association, it's usually on a formal, I mean, in a formal lecture in a national conference, for example, or when we are being invited outside the country to talk about the association. So medyo very formal talaga. And I am happy that we have this kind of platform wherein medyo mas relaxed and mas hindi ako nagmamadali. I don't have a time limit to talk about and discuss the
Right.
association.
And
So
also kasi if dun sa mga formal like fora, it's usually people who are already have an idea and interested in PPTA. And those people who are not really familiar or not interested in attending those, hindi nila hindi sila nagkakaroon ng idea what PPTA does kasi hindi nga sila nag-attend ng mga fora na gano'n. So, yeah. So, I hope this episode reaches those people so that they would have an idea and would be interested more in what PPTA does.
So yeah, so PPTA basically represents the Filipino physical therapists. No? We represent our colleagues in the country in different, for example, stakeholders meeting, different agencies in the country wherein we need to be represented. For example, in the Department of Health, issues about the issues about the profession, we need to be sitting there, and Professional Regulation Commission, and a lot of government agencies. So we have to be there to voice our, to voice the and answer some queries concerning the profession. So although marami lang nagkakaroon ng misconception that PPTA is PRC, PPTA is SHED. So PPTA is of course a different entity from these government institutions. But inside these government institutions, let me cite, for example, Professional Regulation Commission, Commission on Higher Education. We have a seat in the different councils or different committees in this aforesaid government agencies, and we help them in creating and crafting policies. Okay? Ito mga policies na to are very important for us to be properly guided as far as our profession is concerned in the country. No? Sa Department of Health, we are also there because we are being siyempre tinatanong tayo as to how many, the usual statistics, how many PTs are currently practicing in the Philippines, ilan ang miyembro nyo. Kasi the government, the Department of Health, for example, they have, of course, directions or may mga projects sila. And part of the part of their projects is, of course, the deployment of physical therapists in, let's say, in hospitals, in far-flung areas of the country. So tinutulungan natin sila na mag-fill in tong mga vacancies na to. And at the same time, again, they are consulting us in different policies that they will be releasing, for example. So ando doon si PPTA. So very important kasi na maging miyembro ka ng PPTA, or yung pagiging miyembro mo ng PPTA is actually one of the important benefits, or I think for me or personally, kapag ako'y naging miyembro ng PPTA, pinakamalaki kong benefit siguro is I get to have a formal platform wherein I can share, I can raise all my concerns, and then all these concerns are collated by PPTA, and these are being channeled to specific government agencies which can address. At the same time, pag bumalik naman sa amin pag bumalik naman sa PPTA, kami naman, we will do a consultative meetings amongst our members, and then we will try to explain, ito yung
Mm-hmm.
mga gagawin. So, what's your take on it? Anong
Mm-hmm.
view nito? So, yung ganong kind of relationship, the kind of relationship that we should promote, no? Na
Mm-hmm.
when we call for a forum, when we call for a meeting, sana i-grab yung opportunity na nandoon ka, or you could email, you could send it to Facebook Messenger, para meron din kaming idea ano yung take ng mga, or ano yung perspective ng mga colleagues natin
Mm-hmm.
in the for example, in the grounds, no?
Mm-hmm.
Kasi syempre hindi naman namin monitor lahat. So that's
Mm-hmm.
I think a great opportunity for our colleagues na makapag-share ng kanilang mga inputs, and these
Mm-hmm.
inputs are valuable for us. We
Mm-hmm.
value them kasi gagamitin yan, of course, when we start discussing this creation of guidelines,
Mm-hmm.
policies. Okay? So yan yung isa sa mga concrete na ginagawa ng PPTA. No?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Kaya kapag nagpatawag ng professional forum, sana i-grab yung opportunity na yon, because we always allot naman a portion there na open forum, no?
Mm-hmm.
Yun.
Right. And it's good that you mentioned that people's misconception. One of the people's misconception of PPTA is that PPTA is PRC, or PPTA is CHED. And also, I guess if I may add, some also a misconception is they see PPTA as just the officers, the board of officers, and what's the other board?
Board of directors.
Board of directors, and they miss the understanding that PPTA is all of the professionals, all of the physical therapists in the Philippines. So how would you, as board of officers and directors, know their take on certain issues if they don't participate actively in forums or meetings when you call for them, when we have issues to tackle? So yun nga.
Right.
So that's also one thing, I guess, that they misconceive, that if issues arise, dapat biglang maglabas na agad ang PPTA ng statement without consulting everyone, 'di ba? So
No.
it's a collective statement, or a collective action from all of us physical
Yeah.
therapists. Yun ang medyo hindi nila, yung iba hindi na gets. So that's good.
Let me just give a very recent example.
Mm-hmm.
When COVID-19, during the early part of this COVID-19 in the country, we really need to assess the impact of COVID-19 to our colleagues. So what we did is we need to release a short survey asking our professionals regarding the impact of COVID-19. And from there, we were able to get information, um, valuable information, and that's the time that we need to, for example, we need to talk to Department of Labor and Employment,
Mm-hmm.
that some of our colleagues in the home healthcare practice, for example, and some private practitioners, they were really the impact is really great sa kanila,
Mm-hmm.
because no work, no pay. So
Right.
we need to raise that concern to an appropriate government agency, so that they can consider this certain sector of the society that also needs help, that also
Mm-hmm.
needs assistance.
Right.
So at the same time, they would tell na kulang ng, for example, ng mga PPE.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the Philippines, I know in the US or other parts of the country, the physical therapists are really part of the acute care. No? I mean, it's a recognized practice talaga, and talagang nai-implement yon. Dito sa Philippines, yung talagang in the early part of this COVID-19 pandemic, yung mga rehab facilities, mga DPT departments, nag-close. No? Kasi physical therapy is not considered to be really a parang
Essential.
essential. No, I don't want to use the word essential, but
Mm-hmm.
not really part of the frontliner
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to addressing the COVID issues.
Mm-hmm.
So, nung nag-open ngayon yung mga rehab facilities, syempre, they have to protect themselves, di ba?
Mm-hmm.
So, nangyari ngayon, may mga rehab facilities ngayon na when they go and they're asking for some PPEs, they were not given because they're not priorities.
Mm-hmm.
They are not really involved in that direct COVID-19 care.
Mm-hmm.
No? So we need to really, let's say, we solicit PPEs, mga face masks,
Mm-hmm.
mga shields, no, mga
Mm-hmm.
improvised shields. Yun, we get to look for possible partners na pwedeng tumugon dun sa mga needs na yon.
Mm-hmm.
So ang bottom line talaga, very important yung when you collaborate and when you constantly communicate with your professional society, no? Kasi that's
Mm-hmm.
the time na we can really talk about it, we can discuss it, we can find ways on how to address these issues.
Mm-hmm.
So, yun, very
Was
important.
I don't know if did PPTA release like a statement on what's the on this new situation? Ano ang at least minimum what do you
Yeah,
call this protective equipment that physical therapists should have to stay
yeah.
safe?
During the first part of the early part of the lockdown or the quarantine period,
Mm-hmm.
we released a frequently asked question or
Mm-hmm.
a set of frequently asked questions and to guide our practitioners on
Mm-hmm.
how they go about and continue their practice amidst this
Mm-hmm.
global health crisis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like as you mentioned, the professionals are looking to the organization, professional organizations for guidance, and that's good because like for us here, APTA was able to release a statement on how, as physical therapists, we can minimize the risk of spreading the virus, and
Yeah,
also to protect ourselves from the virus in our practice.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first parang initial
Mm-hmm.
treatment of PPTA, and then afterwards we called for some assistance. In fact, Pocari Sweat, one of the I'm not promoting Pocari Sweat, but just to lay facts here, Pocari Sweat responded to our call
Mm-hmm.
for solidarity and support to our medical frontliners, and as well as, of course, physical therapists who are currently doing PT sessions pa rin during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we released the interim guidelines
Mm-hmm.
for the physical therapy practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So para lang talagang makita rin that we are very aware of this stringent infection prevention and control measures, considering that our practice is really, in contact talaga with our patients when we do
Mm-hmm.
manipulations. And
Mm-hmm.
take note that we are not just only confined also in the practice of physical therapy, it's not just also confined in hospitals. We
Right.
also have community-based rehabilitation. So we need to consider our colleagues who are working in CBR settings,
Mm-hmm.
and even those who are in the private practice or home health care, kailangan mabigyan din sila ng proper guidance. That's why we released that interim guidelines on physical therapy practice.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So we've discussed PPTA as representatives of the practice and the professionals in different agencies of the government, and we also discussed the policy making role of PPTA to standardize the practice. Looking at the website of PPTA, we also have professional development, excellence in standards, policymaking, which we discussed already, interaction in other healthcare settings, which you mentioned earlier with DOH and PRC, and
And
enhancing the
other yeah, and
and
other professional organizations, health
mhm,
professional organizations. Very important yan.
yeah, other healthcare organizations, and and lastly is enhancing the role of the role of physical therapists to the public education and providing services. So if people are going to look at the constitution and laws of PPTA in the website, it's clear what the roles and the goals of PPTA is and how we can, as physical therapists and members of PPTA, can contribute to that goal into achieving that goal, and not just letting the board of directors or officers do it by themselves, right? Because we acknowledge that there's a lot of like seasoned physical therapists out there, or physical therapists who are really focusing on certain areas that might have valuable information to contribute, diba? So it's very important for us, every one of us, to to actively share our inputs to PPTA so that they can represent us appropriately and as what we need. Because yun ang kasi ang minsan hinahanap nila na, you're not representing us. Ang tanong, are you sharing your input? Di ba?
Uh,
So I guess that's something to think about. So you mentioned earlier na it's a non-stock non-profit. So how does an organization like PPTA work if it's a
uh,
non-stock non-profit and the membership is lifetime membership? You only pay once.
yeah. Thank you for asking that. So
Mm-hmm.
that again, this is an opportunity for me to share to our listeners and who are watching us right now about that how we run the organization.
Mm-hmm.
PPTA compared to other professional organizations in the country. Let's just talk on the Philippine setting
Mm.
na lang,
Okay.
Philippine professional organizations. It's really quite unique. Number one, for the reason that again, as you mentioned, we have a lifetime membership. Okay, um, I'll be describing PPTA now as far as that matter is concerned in the current in the current PPTA constitution
Mm-hmm.
because there are just to let the for the knowledge of our listeners,
Yes.
we have plans, of course, with the pending House bills and Senate bills for our PT law. Ano na to may kasunod na tong mga pagbabago when it comes to our PPTA constitution,
Mm-hmm.
standards of practice, code of ethics. So,
Mm-hmm.
maraming domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
If the law will change, the rest will follow, the other core documents. So,
Mm-hmm.
currently, the lifetime membership is 1,500. No? So, I'd like to take up this opportunity sa mga hindi pa PPTA members, magpa-member na kayo.
I think
Kasi
that's the price 5 years ago, di ba? Yun pa rin ating binayaran ko 5 years ago eh.
1.5. Kasi ang
Mm-hmm.
nakalagay talaga sa ating PPTA Constitution is 1,500. But of course,
Oh,
looking
shoot.
at the economics, looking at
Uh-uh.
the inflation rates,
Uh-uh.
kailangan naman magdagdag ng konti to
Mm-hmm.
cover the courier fee and some, the printing of the IDs, etc. Kaya, in the current setting we have right now, kung 1.5 ang binayaran mo noon, ngayon we need to charge 2,000 just to cover the other expenses. Pero what do you
Mm.
imagine a lifetime membership already? You don't charge,
Exactly.
yeah,
One-time
you are
payment.
you are not charged of the annual dues, no?
Mm-hmm.
Isang payment lang yon. So imagine the organization working on that for how many years na ito lang yung binayaran mo. And honestly, it's really it's a big factor why there are plans or movements in the PPTA na medyo malilimit or marirestrict. No? Let's face the fact that an organization will run smoothly, no? Talagang all projects will be properly implemented if there is enough resources, if there are enough resources. Yung 2,000 na yon, ano pa yun, Sir Johanna, marami pa tayong binabayaran annually. No?
Mm-hmm.
For example, I'd like to share to our viewers that PPTA is paying WCPT dues, and we pay 1.14 sterling pound per member per year.
Oh.
So that's our obligation to WCPT. that we have to pay that annual dues. So imagine, so mga 500,000 ang binabayaran ng PPTA every year. And it's not unique to the Philippines. All
Mm-hmm.
member organizations of WCPT, they have this obligation to have their annual dues, and the competition for annual dues payment in WCPT is per number. Per member rather, per member. No? Tapos, medyo yun lang, ang WCPT, meron tayong classification doon, high income country, etc.
Mm-hmm.
etc. Tayo kasi, umangat yung bracket natin.
Uh-huh.
Umangat tayo we are now in the low income. Dati nasa lowest or low, parang gano'n, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But umangat tayo, nasa low na lang tayo, low income. So may corresponding amount yun.
Mm-hmm.
And that's aside from other, for example, magpapamiting. Kaya nga ba kami inside the association that we work for food. No?
Mm-hmm.
Siguro isa rin sa mga dapat ding maano ng mga tao that doon sa binabayad na yon, napupunta lahat yung karamihan sa mga operational expenses ng PPTA. And being a non-stock, non-profit organization, it means all funds that will be collected from the members, ibig sabihin nun, wala dapat mapupunta or walang pampasweldo dapat for the officers and directors and all people who are working for the association. That's the idea of non-stock, non-profit. Pag sinabi kasing non-stock, non-profit, baka isipin lang lahat, kailangan, wala kaming kinikita.
Walang income.
Walang
Dapat
income.
equal.
Oo, parang ganon. Well, actually, nagiging break-even lang talaga.
Mm-hmm.
Because primarily, ang gusto namin is to really improve the physical therapy profession by, for example, providing updates, no? By inviting resource persons from this country and deliver this kind of talk and update the PTs in the country. So, kung isa talagang break-even, wala talagang income just to cover the expenses. Pero ang sigurado ay yun po, wala po kaming nakukuhang sweldo or wala pong sumusweldo ever since sa PPTA. Pero that's not an excuse, no? Hindi ko sinasabing excuse yun kaya hindi namin gagawin yung trabaho namin. In the first place, we volunteered for this, no? We submitted ourselves to the institution, to PPTA. So, talagang gusto namin tumulong para ma-improve yung profession sa country. So, yun. Where do we get income? Where do we get our resources? Number one, from membership fees. Which is lifetime nga. Tapos we also get, for example, sponsors during conventions. Nakakatulong to sa pag-generate ng resources ng PPTA. So, yun lang naman ang pinagkukunan ng resources ng PPTA. Kaya, kapag halimbawa isang province gusto mag-chapter dito, halimbawa gusto na magkaroon ng chapter, hindi agad-agad mapuntahan ng PPTA yon. Kasi we need to budget. Kasi kailangan din naman syempre ng airfare, kami matutulog pagdating doon, unless they will sponsor it. Pero syempre, they are also starting. Kaya talagang ina-expect namin that ang magko-cover muna lang lahat ng expenses when a chapter is, for example, to be formed in a certain province or a certain region, PPTA ang magko-cover muna ng mga costs.
Okay.
Kaya kung minsan hindi agad-agad mabuksan yung chapter na to pag nag-request it. We need to, of course, think of the logistics.
Nako, hirap. Ang hirap magpatakbo ng organization with limited funds.
Yes.
And you said that there's yearly dues, pero how's the statistics ng yearly membership? Is it equal or is it dwindling? Kamusta ang membership?
It's increasing.
It's increasing. Oh, that's good.
Oh, that's a good part, no? Increasing naman yung membership. Pero on the internal perspective sa loob ng PPTA, we really have to double work na we have to think of projects, look for partners, for sponsors, na we can get something so that at the end of the year, we can pay our annual dues, no? Ang malaki kasi talagang, yung malaki talagang na naaalat for the budget is for the payment for WCPT.
Mm-hmm.
Tapos meron pa AWP kasi member din tayo ng sub-region ng WCPT, which is the Asia Western Pacific region. So
Mm-hmm.
we also have we need to pay an annual due doon din
Mm-hmm.
sa. So yan, medyo mahirap siya ng talaga.
Mm-hmm.
Kaya yung ating treasurer, si Ma'am Kath Esquadra, talagang she's doing her job very well.
Working hard. So you've touched on chapters already. How many chapters meron na bang PPTA ngayon?
May kalimutan ako. Can I just enumerate para wala akong
Sige.
ma-miss? Sir Johan, isa sa mga naging to connect this with your previous question on the projects of PPTA.
Right.
One of our projects then is to really empower physical therapists, empower Filipino physical therapists, and we believe that empowering Filipino physical therapists is one of the ways to boost their morale, to empower them, is to come up with their own chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So, ang chapters natin, it can be either provincial or regional.
Okay.
Nagiging regional siya if, let's say, there is a minimum number of PPTA members that should be the pioneering or that should be part of the pioneering members. 20, at least 20 PPTA members. Ngayon, if for example, that particular locality cannot produce that number, we encourage them to name their chapter as regional, meaning to say it's made up of made up of 2 or more provinces.
Mm-hmm.
No?
Gotcha.
And if it's sufficient naman the number to form a chapter, then we can name it as the provincial, based from the provincial name.
Mm-hmm.
So the first chapter of PPTA is Pampanga chapter. So Pampanga chapter is a provincial chapter, and it was followed by the Cebu province chapter, and then we have the Ilocos. We don't call it Ilocos region chapter now because there is a clamor from the people from Pangasinan to come up with their own chapter.
Okay.
That Ilocos region, because it was originally Ilocos region chapter, but Ilocos region, the officers and its members are understanding enough rather to drop the name Ilocos region. and instead Ilocos province chapter na lang. So the third. Fourth, we have the Tarlac province chapter. You have the Bicol region chapter. You have the Quezon province chapter, the Batangas province chapter, the Eastern Visayas region chapter, Eastern Visayas. We have the Iloilo chapter, Cordillera Administrative Region. So that's 10. Alam ko 11 eh. Hindi ko siya matanda kung sino yun. Yes, the first ever chapter in Mindanao, the Northern Mindanao chapter. Yeah.
Was this the one that you just made recently before COVID?
March. Yes, yes. It's the baby, the baby of PPTA's chapter.
Okay, so is there a difference between the regional and the provincial, or it's just the geographical distinction?
It's just that the naming and the location. Pareho lang. They follow the same rules, the guidelines, and the pipeline. We have other chapters or other areas of the country requesting for their own chapter. That all of these plans were temporarily postponed because of the
situation.
Because of the situation.
Right.
But this will not stop PPTA from continuing our projects. It's just again we are looking for the proper platforms and rearranging our strategies and in order to achieve these projects.
Well, that's good because like if the country is made of islands, so it's good that we have chapters para they can channel their concerns kasi pwedeng regional naman talaga yung concern and they
Yes,
can address it within themselves. Thus, as you said, empowering the
empowering.
professionals and the organization as well. Nice. So you also mentioned as part of the groupings of PPTA are special interest groups.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's special interest groups. Again, all of these are part of the achievement of achievement of PPTA to really promote the profession,
Mm-hmm.
because as all we know, we are towards specialization.
Mm-hmm.
We encourage our colleagues to really undergo continuing professional development activities to hone their skills.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, kasi yun ang tinitingnan natin, no? Especially with the alignment of our Philippine Qualification Framework, or the PQF.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to reach a certain level so
Mm-hmm.
that because of the recognition of the profession, and at the same time the different agreements that our country, our government has participated
Mm-hmm.
in our neighboring countries. So meron tayong mga special interest groups. Let me enumerate them ulit para wala akong makalimutan.
Sige.
So you have the, hindi bias, hindi ko rin matanda ko yung pagkakasunod, pero special interest group that I'm part of, Educators SIG. You have the CBR SIG, the Neurologic SIG, Sports SIG. We have the Orthopedic Manual Therapy SIG, Geriatric SIG. Nabanggit ko na PEDIA.
Wala pa.
Oh, that's PEDIA, Pediatric SIG. So the seventh is Pediatric SIG.
Is there an SIG for policies, PT policies, or no?
We don't have yet. We don't have
Okay.
that special interest group yet.
Okay. Parang ano ba pangalan? Phil something? Phil P Pop anyway.
PPTGO. I see.
Phil PT
Yeah,
Go.
physical therapists in government. Now,
Uh-huh.
actually,
What's that?
the nature of that group, or that subgroup of PPTA, is they are considered to be an advocacy group.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's an advocacy group, but considering the PPTA constitution, an advocacy group is not really well described, or it's not actually described in the PPTA constitution. So since we don't have a mechanism or a set of guidelines for an advocacy group, to just para lang maging aligned lang with the PPTA's mechanisms or internal processes, we need to consider, or we need to use the guidelines that we are using for special interest groups.
Mm-hmm.
But technically, your PhilPTGO, or the Filipino Physical Therapists in Government, is an advocacy group.
Mm-hmm.
Treated
as an SIG.
As SIG, so that yung mga mechanisms lang and guidelines merong ipa-follow.
Mm-hmm.
But when we revise the Constitution, that's the time that we are going to inject the definition of an advocacy group.
Mm-hmm. So far, ano yung working definition ng advocacy group for PPTA?
Yung advocacy group na PhilPTGO, they are originally designed to promote basically the welfare, and at the same time to solicit the concerns of our colleagues working in the government. So parang ganun yung pinaka-trabaho niyan. Tapos this will be, of course, properly channeled to concerned agencies.
Okay, so for physical therapists working in government institutions.
Meron kasi, it's
not
more
exactly
of
hospitals.
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 Dati kasi, although tinanong ko na rin sa kanila if they want to, for example, revise and probably include PTs in the government higher educational institutions.
Mm-hmm.
Because education naman, or the field of education, is considered to be an area of practice of physical therapy. So probably they are already contemplating on this idea.
Well, lagi ko nako-compare kasi sa APT kasi Hindi, ito yung naririnig ko dito, hindi sa PPTA.
Uh,
Kasi late na akong nag-join ng PPTA. Like,
like
um,
me.
I joined PPTA 6 years after I got my license
Oh.
because kailangan ko maging part ng PPTA kasi magtuturo ako so requirement. So yeah, so here in APTA, I think there's a special interest group that really focuses on advocacy and policy making. Sila yung talagang core group that advocates in what needs to be passed sa Congress, mga things like that. So kasi maraming, like for example, here marami talagang um, government or
Yeah.
policies na kailangan ipasa kasi yung mga insurances very very big kasi dito yung insurances.
Sir Johan,
Mm-hmm.
yung nabanggit mong yan sa yung counterpart nyo
Mm-hmm.
sa Philippines, it's not actually a special interest group, but
Mm-hmm.
rather a working committee.
Working
So
committee,
yeah,
okay.
so it's the third subgroup of PPTA. So we
Mm-hmm.
have 5 existing working committees.
Mm-hmm.
The counterpart of the APTE, am I right?
APTA.
APTA rather, is the in PPTA it's the Legal and Ethics Committee.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So as mentioned a while ago, we have a pending bill in the
Mm-hmm.
Congress.
Mm-hmm.
So that they work to this committee is primarily assigned for this
Mm-hmm.
endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
And they are closely working together with the PPTA board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So this like the divisions and groupings of PPTA, the chapters, the SAGs, the sorry, the committees, the members can join each of them,
Yeah.
and it's free to join, right?
Actually,
Mm-hmm.
no? Actually, when they accomplish or part of the questions of the application form is a question as to what group they would like to be part of.
Mm-hmm.
So, syempre, ngayon nga kasi, we really need to work closely together and
Mm-hmm.
then we need more people working for PPTA.
Right.
Good thing that we have reactivation of these groups, and I'm really optimistic that with the proper opportunity and platform like this lang,
Mm-hmm.
uh, to invite everyone to really contribute something for your profession, for the profession, we would gladly and open arms namin i-welcome yung inyong assistance. Kasi syempre we admit that we are not really equipped ng lahat. No, we are not
Mm-hmm.
knowledgeable of everything.
Mm-hmm.
If I may say, during the process of the filing of the PT bill,
Mm-hmm.
we need to consult. No, we need to consult with the legal experts.
Mm-hmm.
And good thing, and luckily, we have well, aside from the legal and ethics committee that we have, we
Mm-hmm.
also have colleagues who are currently lawyers already. No?
Mm-hmm.
They went to this path. Uh, they use the PT, their bachelor's degree physical therapy as pre-law, and then
Mm-hmm.
they ventured to law, and they are lawyers right now. And napakalaking tulong nila sa atin kasi they really provide us with the proper guidance, no? Kasi syempre sila yung language nila, no? They have their own jargons, no?
Mm-hmm.
Jargons at some terminologies nila. So they really help us in mga pasikot-sikot sa legislative part ng ating government.
Mm-hmm. Good. And yeah, and also as we've emphasized earlier, yung contribution pa rin ng each of the members for the groups, for the chapters, for the SIGs and the committees. Para, I mean, nandun na tayo if you're interested in uh, the formation of bills, nandiyan yung committee for
Correct.
and enhancing your practice and the profession. Kung gusto mo contribute in your specific practice field, nandiyan ang SIGs, di ba? So,
Correct.
I mean, there are a lot of avenues and ways for us to be uh, contributing to the organization. And so now we've already talked about the bill. So yung PT bill na to, so that people would know, this bill PPTA submitted is not the only bill in Congress right now, right? There's two passed, I think, submitted November last
Yeah.
year, and one is this one, the PPTA sponsored bill. So, what would happen with this?
So what we have right now is we have three existing PT bills in the Congress,
Mm-hmm.
and we have two existing bills in the Senate. Or rather,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, one existing bill in the Senate.
Okay.
So in the Congress, in the lower house, Congressman Christine Alexi Totor, who adopted the version of
Mm-hmm.
PPTA, filed this filed the bill last year, 2019, House Bill 5865, and this is entitled the Act Regulating the Registration, Licensure, and Practice of Physical Therapy, providing funds therefore and for other related purposes. Or this will be entitled, its short title is the Philippine Physical Therapy Law.
Mm-hmm.
So si Honorable or si Congresswoman Christine Tutor is licensed physical therapist.
Mm-hmm.
She is the third district representative, third district of Bohol.
Mm-hmm.
She represents the third district of Bohol. And with ano nga lang kasi ulit, with our current situation, the filed bills, medyo naka-ano yan ngayon, naka-pending ngayon because there are, I think, priorities. Of course, addressing the control of this COVID-19 and responding to the needs of Filipino PTs, Filipinos, ang ina-answer or tinatakal ngayon muna sa lower house and even in the Senate. So we have three pending bills there for PT. So ang process nun is there should be one, no? One version kasi iba-iba yung version ng tatlong bills, no? Iba-iba
Okay.
yung tatlong bills. Pero lahat sila ay patungkol sa physical therapy law.
Mm-hmm.
Ngayon, ang mangyayari, kailangan magpapatawag muna ng meeting. Meron naman tayong contact sa lower house who is responsible
Mm-hmm.
for updating PPTA as to the schedule of the hearings. Should
Mm-hmm.
we, for example, makalimutan nila tayong i-remind, at least we have someone inside. She's also a physical therapist working in the Congress
Mm-hmm.
and a member. So, siya yung sa atin mag-update as to the scheduling of the hearing.
Mm-hmm.
The hearing, the first meeting is the main objective is to arrive at a common or one version.
Mm-hmm.
So yun po, mag-invite lahat ng authors, and then all other stakeholders will be invited and then meet and then discuss and then come up with one version.
Mm-hmm.
And once na-produce na yung version na yon, it will now undergo 3 hearings, no?
Mm-hmm.
First, second, and third hearings.
Mm-hmm.
After ma-pass sa third hearing, it will now be forwarded to the Senate or the upper house
Mm-hmm.
of mag-undergo rin ng 3 hearings.
Okay. So, tagal pala.
Yun yung sinasabi, yung, of course, I mean, again, Sir Johan, and to all our listeners, viewers, PPTA, we really welcome all criticisms. No?
Mm-hmm.
It's a feedback.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way of reminding us of what other things we need to do. So we are open to these comments.
Mm-hmm.
But they just need to understand that laws or bills in the country, hindi siya ganun mabilis na gawin dito sa Philippines. So it will really entail process, and we need support from the people.
Mm-hmm.
That's why every time we go and launch a chapter outside Manila, we would always ask them, do you know your congressmen, your congresswomen? Baka naman you can help us and present this. You need to lobby the bill kasi.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At the end of the session, para matawag na law yan, kailangan majority will always, the two-thirds of the vote of the representatives makuha natin. So, hindi lang ito isa, hindi lang ito 2 congressmen ang kakausapin natin. So, kailangan talaga ng tulong ng mas maraming Filipino physical therapists para ma-introduce sa kanilang mga congressmen and congresswomen about our bill. So, maintindihan nila bakit kinakailangan ng physical therapy law. By the way, yung committee, kasi sa bawat houses, may mga committees yan. So, this bill will fall under the Professional Regulation and Civil Service Committee. Meron yung counterpart sa lower house, sa upper house meron din yan. Sa upper house, it's Senator Revilla who chairs that committee. Sa lower house, nakalimutan ko lang yung name talaga. Sorry po. Sila yung magko-conduct ng mga hearings nito.
I see. So, matagal na nga siya. Pero, I think the question is, bakit naging tatlo ang bill that was submitted for for the PT law?
Yeah, okay. So, ganito, yung isa kasi, I'm not really familiar on, siguro may gusto lang din silang, may gusto silang igtulong sa ating profession. Pero yung the one with Congressman Aurelio Gonzales. Ang nangyari kasi dyan, during the part that we are parang preparing for the draft of the bill, kasi process din. Before pumasok to sa Congress, kinakailangan kasi dumaan muna siya, ideally dapat, sa ating Professional Regulation Commission. So, we did a lot of consultative meetings muna among our peers, among our fellow PTs. Ngayon, after nun, once we have parang a clearer pulse of our colleagues, we presented it to the PRC, to our Professional Regulatory Board of Physical Therapy. The members are Honorable Bernadette Reyes and Honorable Raul Agustin. And then, as per advice, we need to submit this first to the legal department of the PRC. Kasi nga, the name of the committee that will hear this bill is the Professional Regulation and Civil Service. So, kinakailangan, makita mo nila yung version natin. So, dumaan yon. Nung time na nagmi-meeting kasi kami, the former president of PPTA, Dr. Carmelo Cunanan, he offered help so that he can introduce this bill to the congressman in Pampanga. So, ang nangyari yata, they did a research. They did a research, tapos medyo nakabuo na sila, and they submitted it na they filed it na. So, tayo kasi, duman nga doon sa process na kailangan makita muna ng legal department ng professional regulation.
Okay.
So, the story behind the other bill. The other bill, I really don't know the story behind it, but I know na siguro the willingness to really once and for all come up with our own bill, kasi nga yung OT law ay signed na. So, technically, tayo na naiwan sa RA 5680. So, gumawa ng isang version, mayroong isang version din. But again, wala pa namang final as to the PT law or PT bill na papakinggan ng lower house. Kailangan pa ng isa pang meeting to
consolidate the three.
Updated version.
Gotcha. All right. So that's with PT law, and hopefully those who are interested in sharing their points would attend meetings and the hearings as well. So the next bill that was an issue with our profession was the rehab medicine bill that was recently the talk in social media. So I think the concern was that if the bill is passed, it is necessary for all rehabilitation services in hospitals and outside hospitals requiring the management and ownership of a rehab doctor. So for those bills that is not directly PT related but would affect what do you call it, our profession and our practice, would we also have like a say or input on those bills before it's passed?
Ideally, supposedly we should be part of the technical working group for that for those bills,
Mm-hmm.
since physical therapy is explicitly mentioned in that bill.
Right.
Ngayon, we've encountered that those bills when we were drafting the PT bill,
Mm-hmm.
but even encounter and considered the clauses that they place in their bill. So,
Mm-hmm.
gagawin dapat natin is we've already consulted legal experts also on what will be the course of action of PPTA. They were given us the guides rather and
Mm-hmm.
the steps that we need to undertake. We've released a statement about the concern just to let the public know, I mean the physical therapists, the physical therapists know that we are really aware of the bill and
Mm-hmm.
we are preparing for this. It's just that we cannot post and tell it to our social media what will be the next steps because
Mm-hmm.
we need to of course we are naman guided of course definitely by legal experts. So
Mm-hmm.
what we will do is we're supposed to be part of the technical working group. The Legal and Ethics Committee and again the PPTA board will work on this so that all the things that we need to dapat natin sigurong consider or dapat nilang i-consider
Mm-hmm.
will be properly aired during proper forum.
Right,
Yan.
right. And ang I think ang may, ano naman natin is as physical therapists, our main what do you call this concern is to collaborate and not to really like create enemies in the profession.
Exactly.
I don't know sa iba, pero I mean, I think that's the main goal of the organization is to collaborate with other healthcare professionals in the smooth delivery service of rehabilitation to
Yes.
benefit our, of course, our main stakeholder, which is our patients. So,
So sa lahat ng actions na gagawin ng PPTA will always be for the best of or for the best interest of our colleagues. So
mhm,
kaya nga very important yung participation nila. So I'd
mhm,
like to take this opportunity again to invite our colleagues, PPTA members or non-PPTA members,
mhm,
if you can give your inputs on certain issues, please let us know. Now, there is
mhm,
a proper venue, proper platform where you can give your concerns. You can privately message us to our social media accounts or email us at pptaboard@gmail.com. Again,
mhm.
ppta lowercase at gmail.com.
All
Yeah.
right, good. And it's good also that you mentioned even non-members can help,
Yeah.
because whatever the PPT achieves, it also trickles down to you, to everyone.
Yes. Uh,
So we don't
when we
discriminate.
uh, when we are invited in DOH, in DOLE, in PRC, hindi lang naman PPTA members ang dinadala namin doon.
Mhm,
Nire-represent na rin namin ang buong Filipino physical therapy. So,
mhm,
uh, tulong-tulong tayo, no? We have to work together toward a common goal.
mhm,
No? Yung
mhm,
mga vested interests at mga personal agenda, hindi muna natin dapat yung kino-consider ngayon kasi ang pangunahing purpose natin kung bakit tayo nagkakaroon ng ganitong mga pagsasama-sama pagkakaroon ng mga conventions is once and for all to have that kind of image in the society. Well, in the Philippines, alam natin na hindi pa lahat ng Filipino nakikita ang kahalagahan, ang importansya, no? Actually, 'di ba, nakakalungkot isipin na may mga ibang doktor na supposedly magre-refer na sa PT,
mhm,
hindi nila alam yung benepisyo na madudulot ng physical therapy. So,
mhm, mhm,
yun yung inaay natin of course in the future that we get to get this recognition
mhm,
as to our vital role in the society in
mhm,
promoting a healthy and well society.
mhm. I
So,
agree, and I also, if I may add, it starts with us valuing our profession within our organization, so that it would trickle down as well to like they would recognize that, okay, they're working together, they're making their presence known, so baka
Yeah.
kailangan natin makinig. So parang ganon. I mean, it's still, I for organizations like this, it's still a numbers game. The more people talking about the organization, the profession, the more people would know us and see the value in our profession, in our
Yeah.
practice.
In number, there is power, ika nga.
Yes, correct. Hmm. We've talked about the PT bill, the rehab med bill. How about on issues for, let's say, the most recent one? We had some bad apples in our profession. So, what would happen? Um, what's the role of PPTA in those, for those physical therapists that have led astray to a path that probably doesn't really like know the meaning of professionalism and stuff.
If I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
we issued a statement also reminding our colleagues, especially um, when it comes to upholding our code of ethics. No?
Mm-hmm.
We emphasize that because of the, because of the rampant trash talking over the net.
Mm-hmm.
And medyo ano na some are medyo nakakaano na tayo rin no, tayo colleagues, fellow PTs ang medyo nagkakasiraan na, no. And again, ideally dapat ano tayo dito, we are united, sabi nga, in numbers there is power, pero dapat yung numbers na yon united, common
Mm-hmm.
goal.
Mm-hmm.
The problem talaga dito is not all Filipino PTs are member of the PPTA. Ang and as a professional organization, we don't have the in our mandates, we don't have that policing power.
Mm-hmm.
Cannot parang we don't have a direct jurisdiction over non-PPTA members.
Okay.
But what we PPTA can do is to again channel these concerns, these complaints to the Professional Regulation Commission. So as an organization, what we can do is we need to, of course, if you have anything to say, or if you want to parang submit complaints or grievances, no,
Mm-hmm.
add it in black and white,
Mm-hmm.
and then to make it really formal, and then we will attach a cover letter and then forward it to the Professional Regulation Commission.
Mm-hmm.
And we will constantly remind our colleagues, PPTA members or non-PPTA members, iisa lang po ang code of ethics na sinusunod natin, and this is promulgated by the Professional Regulation Commission.
Mm-hmm.
We will keep on reminding them by, you know, during online or webinars, inject a portion, no. Kasi ako, for example, kung minsan nagbibigay ako ng opening remarks,
Mm-hmm.
or they ask me to give an inspirational message,
Mm-hmm.
I make it a point na meron ako portion, you know, to remind our colleagues about ethics, professionalism, no? Kasi naituro naman sa atin to, I'm sure. Naituro
Mm-hmm.
naman sa atin. Kaya lang siguro, because of emotions, no?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the passion,
Mm-hmm.
medyo nalilihis yung ating mga kinikilos ko minsan. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's for now what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, unless talaga na PPTA member yan at
Mm-hmm.
merong formal complaints sa amin, that's the time the Legal and Ethics Committee will intervene.
Mm-hmm.
Yun, yung gagawin. Pero with the current issues, honestly, I've been receiving emails, no? Sad to say, coming from other professions, no?
Mm-hmm.
They are concerned. Nakakatuwa rin naman isipin na concerned sila sa ating mga PTs na
Mm-hmm.
kumita, na nadadamay yung buong profesyon. So, these concerned citizens, malaki rin naman pasalamat natin na nagbibigay sa atin ng ganitong mga feedback. So, yun, iniisa natin silang sagutin. Hindi man agad-agad, pero we get to acknowledge their messages to us.
Right. And if I may say as much as possible if we can hold ourselves from engaging with those types of people, because I think they're getting um, more from it because they're getting more attention.
Mhm.
If people are engaging with those kinds of behavior, iwasan na lang natin, kaya na lang natin siya. Pero kasi ang concern ko kasi if the misinformation gets to people who are naive enough to believe it, yun ang
Yeah.
nagpapasama sa profession natin and what we stand for and what we want our profession to be like. So I think it's a balance of trying to weed that person out and not engage to actually spreading the correct information to other people. So we have yet to find that balance, and as you said, there's proper channels that we can air our
Correct.
complaints against that person.
Kasi at the end of the day, if you keep on talking over social media, wala namang resolution na gaganap.
Mm-hmm.
You're just destroying both, destroying each image nyo, yung inyong mga reputation. So,
Mm-hmm.
siguro, just give us those, na lang siguro, para we can correct, or probably we can come up with parang mga infographics correcting, for example, the accusations or wrong information being disseminated. So siguro just give us the na lang po, just air it to the proper venue,
Mm-hmm.
proper authority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Pout, I think since their profession was mentioned in his video, Pout already gave their statement on what their stand is. So there. Next is I've seen in one of social media again. I don't know if you have seen this. There is physical therapy clinic that is looking for um, physical therapy assistants. Meron
Mm.
na bang ganong profession sa Philippines? Or can private practice hire PT assistants? I forgot the requirements that he was asking, if it's graduate of BS PT and that hasn't um, taken the board exam yet.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but the question is, can someone hire someone to be a physical therapist assistant in the Philippines?
Yeah. I'm not sure, sa dami kasi ng mga nare-receive ko syempre yung mga reports. I think
Mm-hmm.
I encountered that one,
Mm-hmm.
pero can't really exactly as parang kagaya mo rin, hindi ko rin maaalala exactly kung ano yung post. Pero
Mm-hmm.
with that question, in RA 5680, there is a kasi description or physical therapy aid,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Sorry, physical therapy technician,
Okay.
no? Ang dinefine doon.
Mm-hmm.
So, PTAs, like what's happening in the US, yung practice sa US na may PTA, na yung PTA, di ba, nag-undergo rin ng licensure examination,
Mm-hmm. They
right?
have an associate degree.
Yes. So,
Mm-hmm.
dito kasi sa Philippines, wala tayong ganon. Wala
Mm-hmm.
tayong program for physical therapy assistants
Mm-hmm.
talaga. Kung physical technicians, wala na rin. Before, merong mga institutions na go-offer nun ng
Mm-hmm.
PTA or physical therapy technicians. Pero wala na nun. Wala
Mm-hmm.
nang program na ganon. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think I can review that, hanapin ko
Mm-hmm.
ulit sa nag-forward sa akin
Mm-hmm.
about that. And then probably contact that. Kasi nangyari na yan eh.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And before, na there's actually a spa looking for a licensed physical therapist.
Okay.
And the description, the job description is totally different from what a physical therapy should be doing.
Okay.
So what we did, so may dumating na concern sa amin, what we did is we contacted the spa owner, the spa management, and then we emailed them, of course. We gave them the references of what a physical therapy should do, the description, etc. And then they replied naman, and what they did is they changed it, yung advertisements nila,
Okay.
as to the hinahire nilang or hinahanap nilang personnel.
Mm-hmm.
So probably ganun din yung gagawin namin dito if
Mm.
the agency or the company or
Mm.
the
The clinic.
ano, yeah, we will do it, we will contact them na lang and then
Mm-hmm. Because for me, I think my uh, concern there would be what's the scope of
mm,
someone with a title or position as physical therapist assistant to someone who's licensed physical therapist in the Philippines without having the proper black and white that we have
mm,
yet. Because PT, I think PT techs are for setup, things like that, right? And watching, just observing, and they're
mm,
not really hands-on based on what
yes,
I know about PT
yes,
techs.
yeah, you're right.
So pag set up lang ng hot pack sentence and stuff like that, taking it out, but actually hands-on they can't do.
Yeah.
So probably with that, I think the concern is ano ang role ng assistant as to opposed to our licensed physical therapist.
So walang document that will
Mm.
really parang clearly mention their
Mm-hmm.
roles kasi
Mm-hmm.
baka yan, well, of course, kapag if they do PT works that are, mentioned in our Republic Act 5680, then
Mm-hmm.
definitely they're violating the RA 5680 and they're
Mm-hmm.
subject to legal actions for it. So
Mm-hmm.
wala pa clear document na magsasabi niyan. Baka wala yung
Mm-hmm.
magde-delineate ng role
Uh,
ng PT assistant sa physical
mm-hmm.
therapy.
Kasi hindi pa natin kasi nakita yung need for that eh. But
Yes, yes.
But just asking your personal opinion, not as a PPTA president, kasi the shift now is, di ba, for high school graduates, senior high school graduates, to be equipped with like vocational knowledge, right? Yung pwede na sila magtrabaho even after, would PPTA roles be something that our profession is looking at, or is it too far of a stretch for now? Or probably like a 2 year course, 1 year course?
Ano yan actually parang it was tackled
Mm-hmm.
in a discussion before,
Mm-hmm.
more of a ladderized program.
Right.
Um, I think CHED, the TESDA, and DepEd have already parang had a meeting before about it. And ako personally, it's okay
Mm-hmm.
for as long as, again, uh, we can have a ladderized program for as long
Mm-hmm.
as there's a clear competencies
Mm-hmm.
that a vocational or a TESDA graduate program, for example, related to physical therapy, it should be properly laid down lang.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have our own existing guidelines or descriptions of our competencies, our roles.
Mm-hmm.
So they should have come up. And pero dapat ano rin 'yon, i-involve din dapat ang yun nga, ang CHED or ang PRC, ang
Mm-hmm.
professional organization, so that there will be proper communication.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maganda naman yung project ng government na yun, no? Yung
Mm-hmm.
ating Philippine Qualification Framework,
Right.
pero it has to be clear na.
Right. Right. And maset talaga yung line ng scope ng if ever. Mm-hmm. And that last issue is, hindi man issue is talk of physical therapy is having a direct access. As professionals, we can call ourselves autonomous because we're regulating ourselves. But as the practice of patients having the ability to see a physical therapist first before a medical doctor, is that something that we would see in the near future, or with the passing of a PT law, or is it still something that we can probably look forward to?
Actually, doon sa bill natin, authored by Congressman Tutor, we have a specific section
Mm-hmm.
concerning the scope of practice
Mm-hmm.
or rather the delivery of physical therapy services.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just quote it under Article 4 of our proposed or our of House Bill 5885 or 5865 rather,
Mm-hmm.
delivery of physical therapy service. Physical therapists shall collaborate with stakeholders in order to provide the most effective, cost-efficient, and client-centered service. Physical therapy involves the interaction between PTs, clients, other health professionals, families, caregivers, communities, and other stakeholders in the delivery of services using knowledge and skills unique to PTs. So, with this kind of proposal sa ating bill, we are looking at again a delivery of service na sa tingin natin, if we think for example that we need to really have a parang direct access already, for
Mm-hmm.
example, in a particular sport event, no,
Mm-hmm.
something happened and there's no available other medical professional there. I think PT can already intervene and provide necessary first aid or
Mm-hmm.
management to somehow
Mm-hmm.
control the condition.
Mm-hmm.
So again, in our professional issues discussion with our colleagues, hati pa rin eh. Marami pa rin mga colleagues natin dito sa Philippines na gusto nang talaga mag-direct access.
Mm-hmm.
Meron naman na mga colleagues natin na medyo may apprehension pa towards
Mm-hmm.
this direct access, that they are really comfortable
Mm-hmm.
for now,
Mm-hmm.
siguro, for now with receiving management from medical or from physiatrists.
Mm-hmm.
Siguro ang kinakailangan natin talaga muna ditong isettle din, are we really prepared
Mm-hmm.
for for having that direct access
Mm-hmm.
uh, in our country?
Mm-hmm.
So if the answer is yes, then we need to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
We need to prove it to our to other health professionals and other stakeholders that we are really capable of having a direct access to our patients.
Mm-hmm.
Kasi marami na namang models ang nagpapatunay din naman na yung cost
Efficient.
efficiency,
Mm-hmm.
no, ng direct access. So we are supported with that. Ngayon, the question now is for the professional.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Talaga bang ready tayo dito? And
Mm-hmm.
then if we are ready, then let's show them that we are really, really prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Ngayon, with nakakalungkot lang that with yung mga actuations or mga conduct behavior ng iba nating colleagues, baka maging magkaroon ng mag-bounce back sa atin yun, maging issue sa atin yun, no?
Mm-hmm.
Ito ba ang sinasabi niyong mga professionals that are ready to accept clients?
Mm-hmm.
When they, horror stories are available at makwento or mababanggit ng mga patients, di
Mm-hmm.
ba? So baka maging rin to, argument against us.
Mm-hmm.
Gagamitin din yan. Kaya ngayon, dapat really need to show the other health professionals and our
Mm-hmm.
clients that we are ready for this.
Do you think, personally, do you
Personally,
think do you think doctoring the profession is one step in proving that we are ready to accepting direct access patients?
I think not just really doctoring, but more of doing a continuing professional development
Mm-hmm.
activity. Halimbawa, certain certifications na we
Mm-hmm.
are really, kasi nga yung Philippine Qualification Framework, meron kang academic track at saka non-academic track.
Mm-hmm.
Having a doctorate degree,
A clinical doctorate.
a clinical doctorate can really show na talagang we are ready for this.
Mm-hmm.
However, meron pa rin namang other means that
Mm-hmm.
we can prove that we are prepared for
Mm-hmm.
handling patients and uh, having this kind of practice setting in our
Mm-hmm.
country. So there are other ways we can show and prove to the society that we can accept patients
Right.
directly.
Tsaka if ever naman magkaroon ng direct access ang Philippines, it's not as if pipilitin ka mag-direct access just because you're a physical therapist. And it's not like that. Like here, there are certain states that have limited, what do you call this, limited number of visits for direct access. Then if you're not able to resolve the patient's condition on those number of visits, then you have to refer them to the proper medical professionals. Though, as we've said earlier, that there are already proven studies that choosing physical therapy first would be efficient or cost effective for patients. There is still that guidelines that if you're not able to manage the patient's condition, then that's the right time that you can, what do you call this, refer them to other medical professionals. And also, practice settings would also ask for the patient to be under the care of the for a medical doctor. So direct access is, what do you call this? It's there, but it's optional. I mean, most of the people enjoying direct access is from the private practice setting. So if you're in the hospital, the patient needs to be seen by the doctors. If you're in a skilled
Exactly.
nursing facilities or home health setting, the patient needs to be seen by a doctor. So I mean, for those who are not advocating or trying to stop direct access, isipin nyo naman, hindi naman kayo pinipilit mag-direct access. It's just an option for those who are practicing and have private practices. Sila yung mas magbe-benefit dun eh. And also the patients, of course, sila yung magbe-benefit dun. Going to probably a physical therapist for some muscle pain, low
Yeah.
back pain, which is the most common condition na being studied eh, for physical therapist direct access eh. Minsan, PTs can resolve that already without MRIs, without other pain medications. So for that, that proves that physical therapists work kahit na hindi gumastos ng malaki yung PT. So
Uh,
in that sense, it is cost effective and efficient for the patient. So
that's why it's just that you need to watch out for red flag signs, diba?
right, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why the readiness comes in. That's where the readiness comes in. The differential diagnosis and things like that. So yeah, so some people might say, yeah, pwede nga yung continuing education, then probably later on, how many years after doctoring the profession might be an option. So
Kaya that's how that's actually the rationale why in the proposed bill we mentioned that PT shall collaborate with stakeholders in order to provide the most effective, cost-efficient, and client-centered. It really depends on, ganito lang ka-general yung nilagay dito sa bill so that it will not be limiting, it will not be too restrictive. Kailangan pang another law in the future. Let's say nagkaroon na ng change. Our practice is evolving. So,
correct.
pag nagkaroon ng bago, do we need to change another law? Do we need another law to repeal this one? So, yung ganito ka-general yon so that when we craft na lang or create the IRR, that's where we make specifications.
Exactly.
No?
So
Kaya,
there's room for progress.
yes. Yeah. Kasi yun, mas madaling i-amend yun, yung IRR. First,
The con. Okay. Right. All right. So again, tumagal tayo masyado, pero I am for sure that the listeners would get a feel of what physical therapy, PPTA, Philippine Physical Therapy Association is and what it does. So before I let you go, I have just three last questions for you. It's my PT bites, last bites. So first one is, what do you think is essential for us physical therapists to in furthering our profession and helping it move forward?
of course, again, sa context na pinag-uusapan natin kanina that we really need to be united. No? We need to move towards a common goal. We have this in mind. No? Pare-pareho tayo ng mindset, pare-pareho tayo ng framework na gustong ma-achieve, then I think we will reach that point that we can be really parang, mga bata, pag tinanong mga bata, anong gusto mo paglaki mo? Gusto ko maging PT. No? That's the time na we can say na, okay, we are really at that certain level na we are recognized. They know they know the benefit that we can do. So we just need to be united. Number two, I think also we have to be dedicated in what we do, in what we advocate for. If we really need time for us to talagang sit down, let's discuss it, no, we will do that. And then lastly, we need to be grounded. Okay? Yung mga mga achievements natin, yung mga mga titles meron tayo. Tandaan natin, we are doing that not because for us only, but we are doing that most especially to our clients. So when I talk about clients, it could be a student, it could be your patient, no? It could be the community. So ito yung mga tinatawag nating clients. So ginagawa natin yon, obligasyon natin yon na kung ano man yung type ng physical therapy, take note lang that physical therapy, yung practice natin ay hindi lang confined ulit sa clinics. Marami na tayo mga roles na ina-assume ngayon. We can be a manager, we can be a leader, we can be a policy maker. So may mga non-clinical roles na tayo. So lahat ito, meron tayong definitely pinagsiservan ng mga tao, mga constituents, no? So we are doing and we are studying, we are doing CPDs dahil obligasyon natin sa kanila that we update them, we inform them, no? And I think these are the three important things that all Filipino physical therapists should possess right now. We should be united. We have one mindset, dedicated and
grounded.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's good. Unity, dedication, and being grounded. Next question is you're a physical therapist, clinician, educator, leader as a president of PPTA. Of course, people have been asking you, doing them interviews, forums, seminars. What is something that people have missed asking you that you think is worthy of sharing to other people? So something that they haven't asked you that you think it's nice to know about you.
Tulog pa ba ako? Actually, disturbed na ngayon ang sleeping pattern. Usually, I sleep at around 3 o'clock. But, of course, I have a day job. Yun yung gusto ko rin i-share sana sa mga tao na yung mga BOO at BOPs and other people working in the PPTA, hindi kami full-time sa PPTA.
Wala kang sweldo eh.
We need to answer also our physiologic needs. So, I think that's one. I have a disturbed sleeping pattern. Chronotype ko nga ay iba na. That's why when my boss, our EVP, will always ask what time do we start the meeting, I'll tell them, pwede pong 10 o'clock. Because I will wake up ng late because I will be sleeping ng late din. Early 3 o'clock. Ganyan. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's one thing na.
Okay. Interesting. Night owl ka na talaga, no? Okay. Last question. The episode or the show is called PT Meal. It's a complete meal of physical therapy information. But the question is, what are the 3 ingredients that make Mike Gabilo?
Number one, I'm driven. I have to be motivated, and once really motivated, I'll make it a point na I will achieve it and accomplish it. That's, I think, one. Number two, very important sa akin ang culture, ang value na tinuro ng parents ko, humility. Titles, positions, this will not last, or hindi naman talaga siya ganun hindi siya magmamatter all the time. So what you really need is to stay grounded, feet on the grounds, talagang you know how to respect people, no? regardless kung ano mang katayuan nila sa buhay, they're still human beings and they should be respected. And then lastly, I am very flexible. I can be with a group of quiet people. I can be in a group of talkative people. Medyo I can blend with the crowd.
As a takeaway, what do you want the audience uh, to take away from this episode?
For as a parting message to our listeners and viewers, um, this is the right time for us again to work together as a profession. Marami tayong mga definitely kakaharaping mga obstacles that we need to hurdle. So, ang pakiusap ko lang talaga is PPTA member ka man o non-PPTA member ka, and for as long as your profession is physical therapy, I think you should be part and you should be doing something for your profession. I think that's all I can say right now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you again, Sir Mike.